This is day 1225 since the code red murder of Richard. And let me make sure that I am on here. See if I'm on here. Okay, I'm coming on a little bit earlier tonight. Hallelujah. Okay. And I try to give everyone a little bit of heads up. So it just sometimes it gets later and later, and the information needs to get out. So coming on a little bit earlier, hopefully, will be better for many people. Um, so yesterday it was pretty somber discussion about the sexual attack on Richard, and today it's going to be again somber, um, because the the evidence coming out, and we're still wrapping our heads around the evidence coming out today. So I'll, try to do a TikTok early tomorrow. I just put one up, and just to sustain the momentum on TikTok. We are, getting up to 4,000 people. This is all about. And do I care about it? Absolutely. Because it takes you. It takes you, the people, to care and to share, to drive the agencies, the organizations, our government, the officials to do their duty. They don't pay attention too much to anything until the people pay attention, and then they will. They're driven. They're driven by people paying attention and the social atmosphere, and that's why at the beginning of Richard's disappearance and murder, I really spoke out against the whole COVID mandates, because they were really hindering and obstructing the search for our son. And a lot of people didn't understand that. And I think you have to live through it, live through, actually trying to do the inquiries and the searches to understand what we went through with that ridiculous, insanity of the COVID mandates. And people now, 3 years later, are realizing that absolutely it was insane. And, you know, uh, it was a business plan, y'all. That's what it was. It wasn't a virus, it was a business plan. That's for sure. So I don't believe in the germ theory, so I can say that pretty easily. I believe in the train theory. And, I have nine grandchildren. Of course, I believe in the train theory, and I don't believe in the germ theory. I mean, that would make my life very, very difficult, to wrap my heads around the interactions of my grandchildren and what they do. Um, so yeah, they're always drinking out of each other's cups, and um, stealing each other's French fries and food off their plate. That's what happens when you're 3 years old and 2 years old. And um, anyway, so today is, and I have to have humor, have joy in life. We never, ever, ever want to give up our joy in life. We always should have hope. And at the very beginning of this, many people were telling me on the evil side that I would never, ever get Richard's remains. I would never find him, meaning, we wouldn't find out what happened. And, I don't believe that. I absolutely don't believe that. I think that is a tactic. That is a scare tactic, or a psychological tactic to take away hope from people. And I just didn't let that happen. Um, I have hope. and we can absolutely find out what happened to Richard. And part of the evidence that is coming out, and there's three different types of evidence: the hard evidence, the circumstantial evidence, and the irregularities. And the evidence that is coming out, the Giant's Causeway, is pointing to some really horrible things that happened to Richard. I'm doodling while I'm talking to y'all. Um, some really awful things. And, we have locations, right? We have the locations of Fort Bliss. I'm going to run them down and then I'll tell you what we think. Um, of Fort Bliss, and uh, of course the kilometer 29, which is in Mexico, and we have the coordinates for that. And seems that that has very interesting ownership, y'all. Very interesting ownership, and I can't wait to tell you about it because it's kind of like one of those what oh my gosh moments for the tactical move storage units, which we got pictures that they were in that area, these big storage units, and that is a location. Um, so you have Fort Bliss, and then you have kilometer 29. There's some training areas that are locations, and of course you have the Van Buren Avenue houses. That's important locations, and the ownership is also very interesting. And then of course you have the Bliss Avenue homes, which is also mind-boggling because that absolutely connects Danae Katzen with Belen Rocha, their families together, that they are, Belen absolutely got the wrong message from her dad when she said, I asked my dad, um, because, I don't know if she had a blonde moment or what, I don't know. Um, but they are absolutely connected, and they're connected with Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, which is in the Patrick Crucius case. And it's also, hold on to your seat, it's also connecting Leilani Hart with that family and Patrick Crucius's defense attorney, Felix Valenzuela, to that area. And on Fort Bliss, we have, insiders, and uh, which, kind of analyzes the information that we received, and from many, and sometimes, they're not um, meaning for good. They're meaning, um, just to cover themselves. And so, in this instant, I'm going to talk about um, Thomas Kane, the director of emergency services, and what he said. He's the chief of security of Fort Bliss that responded to a missing soldier by saying he was a good meal for the coyotes, um, which is unconscionable, and he should be stripped from all of his pension, I believe, just uh, you know, saying something like that about a missing soldier. Um, it's and comparing him to Vanessa Guillen because he absolutely knew that Richard had been dismembered, and so and these autopsy reports that all say fragmented, dismembered, findings, um, and yeah, it is. It's the most horrible thing, and I'm not allowed to have emotions about it, even though those emotions come out, because we have to stay focused so that we do our due diligence in like this writing this letter today, and also paying attention to the leads that are coming in still, um, and pay attention and try to do the research to bring all of this together in order to meet our ultimate goal, and that is to bring Richard's remains home, um, and hold those responsible accountable to secure um, safety for our service members, that this group of people cannot be operating, and that the leadership that have protected them um, cannot be operating, and send a clear message to any other leadership that wants to get into these kind of criminal syndicate enterprises, that it's a no-win situation. Um, yeah, and so I'm very glad that this happened in Texas. So that's our ultimate goal. And so today, what I'm going to talk about is the arms room, and Thomas Kane. Thomas Kane, of course, had a very close relationship with Leilani Hart. And remember that Leilani Hart is the mother of Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Hart. And Dallas Hart is, of course, the main suspect in all of this. And then, of course, the subsequent cover up and all of that by Leilani Hart and Jay Paulin. And Jay Paulin is interesting too, because I think he played a really big part in all of this. Um, and yeah, so when I can tell you, I will, but I can tell you that we have enough. We have enough on Jay Paulin that we know that he played a very, very, very big part in the demise of Richard. Um, so Leilani Hart, of course, is the mother of Dallas Hart, Richard's platoon leader. And, um, as a platoon leader, he has full access to Richard's room, Richard's items, um, of course, to the arms room and the orderly room. And, he just, to the records, which we have. Um, it seems that Dallas Hart was up to no good when it came to records and record keeping and tampering with records. And, that's not really shocking when his mother was found tampering with records also, with her boyfriend, former CID, Fort Bliss CID special agent, Tavita Nusa. And the concerns with this is with the arms room, with the weapons smuggling, and narcotics trafficking. And our sources are saying that that is what Richard was reporting on, and people were being arrested for what he reported when it came to um, the trafficking and the smuggling. And Thomas Kane, who had a close relationship with Leilani Hart, which does that mean automatically he has a close relationship with Dallas Hart? No, but it's kind of like this Clem Coward thing, because she had a close relationship with Clem Coward also. And the thing you have to know about Leilani Hart, that I know about Leilani Hart, and I've never even talked to her, um, and I've invited her to come on, but she gets into those positions where she can meet people that will be people of power. And so, of course, she's going to pay attention to Major General Clem Coward, right? And of course, she's going to pay attention to Thomas Kane. They are people of power. And, of course, she paid attention to Tavita Nusa right? And of course, to her husband and the VA sitting on the health board. And, it just happens, uh, you know, that he decides who gets the disability benefits. And she has 100% um, disability. And so, it was very stressful being a dental hygienist in the military. So, you know, um, just saying, just saying, don't want to pass any judgment there. Um, so, she definitely was always trying to, from this witness point of view, not my point of view, trying to get into favors, into close relationships with those people that can, of power, that can offer something. And so, the tampering of files or um, really huge, huge crimes, it emboldened her because she knew she was protected. And it's even like I'm thinking about her notarized criminal complaint, um, and all the people that it has taken to protect her, because she's very, very protected with the generals. And, because, and she is in the media very, very protected. But and with Bob Moore, right? With Bob Moore, um, here she is, a convicted criminal. She's totally an unreliable source. She has over a dozen um, uh, cases on her criminal history, and what did she get convicted for? Lying to law enforcement authorities. So they did not, and then she's the mother of Dallas Hart, and they did not put that in the articles. It was really a political narrative. It was what it was is mind control. Okay, it was mind control, and Thomas Kane, um, with Anne Ogle, were looking into mind control. Of course, they were professors. Also, they were double hatted, triple hatted, quadruple hatted. They were at Park University and they were looking into mass shootings. They were researching it. They were researching into mind control. Patrick Crusius, his father, wrote a book on mind control. I wonder if they read his book. I don't know. Um, just asking. Because Richard's case is totally intertwined with the Patrick Crusius case. And here, Richard is in the CID internship with, the administrator, Ann Ogle, and Thomas Kane um, classes. I mean, you know, it, it's not just coincidence that these things are happening. Um, and so Richard not wanting to play the game, I don't know if Leilani Hart approached him, tried to get his favor with, being the Distinguished Honor Graduate, trying to get into the CID. Um, it seems like I think that she was approaching him. Also, it wouldn't be far fetched to think that, and especially with her son being, um, the platoon leader. She's trying to build all of her contacts up, and Richard didn't play the game. He didn't play the game, and so when Richard made these complaints, and they had to do something about it, right? And people were getting arrested, or people were getting, because there's all this sealed information. I'm going to tell you that right now. There's a lot of sealed files, a lot of sealed um, court uh, hearings and things like this. Of course, there's a lot of secrecy behind Patrick Crusius's case. There's a lot of secrecy behind Richard's case. And, with Patrick Crusius' defense attorney, Felix Valenzuela, this week saying, no, we need to keep it secret. And you have Nadal Baim, shh, shh. They found Richard's remains, shh, shh. Everything has to be a secret, everything has to be sealed. You have Judge Robert Lee Shook, and also um, another judge, Judge Hamilton, that, seems to have put uh, the seals on the case. And, so we've had to find out everything ourselves through leaks. Because I should say, I don't want to call them leaks, um, but information coming out because the unit knows, right? The unit knows, and Fort Bliss knows. If the unit knows, the information has gotten out there, and there is still an ongoing concerted effort to blacken Richard's name and turn him into a criminal. Um, he has, this is a fact. We went to the federal criminal database. He's never been on it. So he wasn't even charged for desertion because, they told us when we first called that he was a deserter. Well, that was a lie because why did Captain Yoshida lie to us? Because if that was true, Richard would be on that database because that's a federal crime, right? So they already had found his remains and they asked to lie. They already had made up their mind that they were going to lie because of this connection between intertwining Patrick Crucius' case with Richard's case, and they just couldn't undo it. And Patrick Crucius' case is such a political. It's kind of like you can understand why Bob Moore and El Paso Matters um, participated and intersected themselves into the Patrick Crucius case because the Patrick Crucius case was a political attack case, and of course, Bob Moore is a political attack machine, also, which violates his 501c3 agreement with the IRS. And so the IRS now, rightfully so, is investigating him. So this is, very political, whether we like it or not, whether we want it to be or not, it is political. And of course, it was happening in 2019, 2020, which was very political. And so they turned it, uh, turned the narrative to meet their political needs. And let's look back at Richard and what was going on there in the arms room. Because I didn't want to talk about the arms room on this live stream. And the light. Good evening, Anicia. Good evening, Mitzi. I see everyone. Good evening, Grace. Good evening, Eddie. Thank you so much. Um, you look forward to these daily lives. Wow, thank you so much. We love you. We love you. And um, please know that we could not do this without you. Um, Absolutely no way. And my husband always says, don't forget to tell him that because we couldn't do this without you. Uh, even with the shadow banning, even with, because in TikTok we're almost up to 4,000, and we've been at 4,300 on Facebook for what years? Couple years. Um, so anyway, I wanted to talk about the arms room. And the arms room is something that's been going on for a long time. I think this crime And I think a lot of crimes in the military have has been going on for a long time. It's not anything new. And so, but is that any excuse to dismiss it? No. It's about time it gets shut down, right? It's about time it gets shut down, these criminal enterprises using our military. And it's putting our nation at risk, because the readiness is not there, because they're falsifying records, they're falsifying reports, even on military readiness. And they're so busy in the arms room, manipulating the records, because they're smuggling the ammunition, they're smuggling the weapons, they are manipulating the weapons and whatnot, whatever they're doing. That they are weapon smuggling and ammunition smuggling. And I think that Claudia Guerra could tell you that very succinctly. Um, yeah. Uh, and I think Timothy Mitchell could absolutely say that. And I think, of course, Dallas Hart could say that that was going on. Absolutely. That, there's a very, very big problem with the arms room. But those are little people compared to Thomas Kane, right? Thomas Kane, the director of emergency services, and of course Brigadier General, um, uh, what's his name, David Stewart, um, who also, uh, and Dirty Agent Marlon Soto, saying that the barracks were flush with weapons. And we know in 2023, the barracks are still flush with weapons because of that shooting near Cincinnati, there in El Paso, that killed people. And they went and did a health and welfare check, and the weapons are still illegal. And so they don't have their hands on the arms room. And Vanessa Guillen was murdered in the arms room, and she was dismembered. And Thomas Kane said Richard is another Vanessa Guillen. And then we have a Electra, a paranormal, that said that Richard was murdered in the arms room. So this, and then the source that we received just recently, said that Richard was murdered in the arms room. And this is not anything new. I've been told that he was murdered in Mexico. Uh, Dolores, she went to the FBI and said he was murdered in Mexico. So, this is a lead. This is this arms room that I want to talk about. Um, you know, uh, it just can't be ignored. It can't be ignored, because there's too many. Um, I believe that we just have to discuss all these leads coming in, and then that will maybe jog people's memory out there, and they will call 941-677-0060, or they will send us messages that will give us extra information that will help us find out which one is true. So when I say he was killed in the arms room, or he was killed at kilometer 29, these are information coming in, and we have to discuss them, right? We have to discuss all the possibilities. And so today I want to talk about the arms room, because we got another lead that stated that Richard was, in fact, murdered in the arms room. And the reason why he was murdered in the arms room is because there's no cameras in the arms room. It's secure, and and the uh, the information coming in is that this is multiple people that are involved, multiple people that are involved in this murder. Okay. And I don't know if it's like cleaning up or, um, or premeditated, because we absolutely believe this was premeditated. The murder of Richard was premeditated because we have that long history of all of the continuous retaliation. You know exactly they had it in for him, and they were planning and colluding together to do him harm. And we have tons of evidence of that they were colluding together to do him harm. And so we have enough, to convict people, but we want to try to find his remains. So we keep going. Um, and the all of the notices, those are all coming. Okay. So we're just trying to tie up all the loose ends of of so that when we are in court, we can put people on the stand and say, how many times did we ask you this? How many times was the open records? I mean, there can't be any question about their guilt, because they need to be held accountable, and we need to absolutely find the guilty people. So that's why we have written letter upon letter upon letter upon letter and gotten the responses, and documented everything. So we wrote a very important letter today, and this arms room with multiple people murdering Richard um, is is not in the letter. Um, it's something that we have to, put out again, put out again. And the CID and the FBI, they have to know that Richard's case is not a cold case, and it isn't. It's absolutely not a cold case, even though the active duty soldier contacted us and said that he was told that Richard's case was a closed case. And that was just witness tampering again, right? Because he's a witness, and they just want to say, oh, whatever you have to say, it doesn't matter because it's a closed case, um, which is so despicable. But that's exactly what happened, and so that's why we had to put in that major complaint. We're not going to sit idle by while they are destroying our military. We're just not going to do that. And they've already destroyed our son, so we're not going to let them destroy our military and our country. Um, and so, of course, we put in that complaint right away. And so these are multiple people that are involved in Richard's death in the arms room. And what is really interesting is that Thomas Kane, um, he absolutely let the rabbit out of the hat, or whatever you want to call it, um, because he said that Major General Eisenhower, this is not me, this is Thomas Kane, that Major General Eisenhower was breaking standard operating procedures, the rules, the laws, the regulations, in order to get rid of that arms room. Okay? They want to rebuild the arms room, and that they would spend whatever is necessary into rebuilding that arms room. And that they wouldn't even uh, do the proper bidding for contracts, that they were breaking regulations, because all he wanted to do ASAP was to redo the arms room. So that is also really odd, and also the red flags go up for that. And this is not just anyone. This is the director of emergency services. This is the chief of security of Fort Bliss that is saying this. So not only is he saying, Richard is another Vanessa? Is that because Vanessa was murdered in the arms room, and so was Richard? She was dismembered, and so was Richard. Um, you know, he's saying that, you know, Richard is another Vanessa. So that's what that would mean, right? And he's also saying that they're trying to hide something when it comes to the arms room because they want to destroy it and they want to build it on the American taxpayer dime, and it doesn't matter to him how much the taxpayers have to pay because he just wants to get rid of the old arms room, so armory. So that is that's, I guess you would call that irregularities, circumstantial evidence. Um, that yeah, it is a little bit concerning, a lot concerning. So this letter that we wrote today, let me see if anyone else is writing. Okay, so this letter that we wrote today is also we're going to be contacting the general to tell them to tell him to tell his team because he has a huge staff. We give him everything. He has a driver, he has a cook, he has a secretary, whatever. He has everything, um, and he has no worries. And yet he's really um, he really is being a coward, right? It's really sad that he has everything and he's using it to do harm against his soldiers. So, and of course, he's 1 AD. Richard was 32nd AdCom. So Garrett is really the general to go to, but still, Eisenhower under the command of Bernabe, Bernabe is his raider, um, is obstructing justice and up to no good, using an unreliable source and also a mental case um, to obstruct the justice in our son's case. So, uh, you know, it's you can't make this stuff up. So he is going to be held accountable um, for the abuse of power and his dereliction of duty to the service members. Absolutely. But we're going to let him know that we wrote this letter, and the letter is to the judge in the Petrocrucius case. Okay. So, because we have information that Felix Valenzuela, um, is being thrown under the bus right now. And so he's acting unconventional for a defense attorney. Yeah. Um, so this letter, what is it stating? I can go over it real quick with you. It's really about Bob Moore and El Paso Matters because Bob Moore has inserted himself into the Patrick Crucius case, and he's absolutely has inserted himself into the Richard Halliday case, and he wants access to files. He wants access to files. Does he want to manipulate files? Does he want to cover himself? Because he's up to no good. So we, wrote this judge who is presiding over the Walmart mass shooting case, and to let him know about this interest, right, of Bob Moore inserting himself both in Patrick Crucius' case and Richard Halliday's case, um, obstructing justice and using an unreliable source, Leilani Hart, and Leilani Hart being the mother of Dallas Hart. And, we would really like to know where our son is. And we have a witness that could absolutely, in his position, help us find the information. And so this was absolutely, they knew that and they had to obstruct it. And the general is covering and allowing that to happen. He does not have the service member 6. He is allowing this obstruction to happen. So, do you think that's uh, enough for dismissal of a general? I do. I think this is, uh, especially because it's intertwined with the Patrick Crucius case. Um, I think it's, you know, I think that the general absolutely should be punished for, held accountable. I guess that should be the word, right? For their decisions. So we have Leilani Hart, Bob Moore, and we know that they are involved and connected, colluding with Felix Valenzuela, Patrick Crucius's defense lawyer, which should, be shocking to a lot of people. Absolutely. So this letter is to let the judge know that there are these irregularities uh, in this case, and it has turned into some really hard evidence and circumstantial evidence and irregularities all rolled up into one about the obstruction of justice in our son's case. But he's presiding over the Patrick Crucius case, so we wanted him to know how these two cases are intertwined. And so we wrote this email to him and sent it off. So of course, we have to um, let the general know that we sent this letter to about El Paso matters, about Leilani Hart, about Dallas Hart, about our key witness, um, and he'll have to find out the information, because it really makes him look very, very bad. It really does. So I don't know if they care or not. I think it's very important because the judge is being driven then to make a ruling, right? That's what we're hoping. That the judge is being driven to make a ruling and in the favor of finding Richard's remains, right? That is the bottom line. So let me read some of your comments. Um, any more info about the escort and why he lied? Was he truly the last one to see Richard? Even everything about the escort is suspect because it was all told to us by dirty agent Marlon Soto. Everything about the escort is suspect. I hope that everyone understands that. Yes. And you know, we're connecting the dots with Richard's case and Patrick Crucia's case, okay? Those dots are very, definitely, definitely it all overlaps, okay? Leaving weird hours. Didn't many members of the legal team resign from that case? Oh, yes. And we're on the ninth prosecutor for Patrick Crucia's case. Thank you, Danielle, for reminding me. And one even died. One even died while they were prosecutor for the Patrick Crucia's case. Um, there's a poison around this. this case, and it's intertwined with Richard's case. So there's a poison there, and they absolutely sealed it. And I think there's a gag order. I think there's a gag order that is not an official one, but something going on behind the scenes to keep the news media for covering this story. And it's very clear that Patrick Crucius, now that he's being, well, Bob Moore, while he's being investigated by the IRS, is trying to do some good things. Um, of course, they're being driven. They're being driven. So, yeah, absolutely. Um, so, how is it that the arms room, um, that weapons are being smuggled out of it and ammunition is being smuggled out of it and the uh, records are being tampered with, and they're being tampered with in mortuary affairs, okay? And remains are being tampered with. I mean, it's like there's no ethical boundary here, okay? Uh, when you're unethical, you're just unethical in all the areas. There's not a certain boundary for them. And I just wanted to make sure that people realize, because it can be so upsetting to say that they were manipulating with the files and the case files and the remains of our service members. Um, and who knows what they were all doing at the mortuary affairs, but it's not on the up and up. I can tell you that right now. So, and we know that Jay Paulin is involved in the demise of Richard. I guess that's the best way to say it. So, it's these letters, and if you want to join, absolutely, I should just put out these letters and let people read them, right? Just put them out there and let people read them, because I think that it's a lot of work that goes into writing these letters, and we're almost professional at doing it now. So, which I choose not to be. I rather go back in time and be the person I was before I knew how bad our military is betraying us with these business plans. And they are absolutely betraying us. So, yeah, they are. There's no doubt in my mind. And that's why they need to be held accountable, so that there can be a remake of our military. Um, as far as the leadership absolutely goes, absolutely, we need new leadership. So, okay, everyone, didn't many members of the legal team? Okay, yeah, they did. Any more info about the escort? Okay, I answered that one. Was he truly the last one, Richard? I don't know. And I think that they abducted Richard on the pretense of an arrest, because they were law enforcement, right? I do believe that, but maybe I'll be proven wrong on that one. So I just think it is really, uh, not a coincidence, right? Okay, everyone, thank you so much. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing, and with more on the information about the arms room and how Richard got to Bliss Avenue. How did Richard get to kilometer 29? How did that all happen? So, thank you so much. God bless you, and I'll be back tomorrow. Bye bye.